It's now time to put the Google Pixel Fold up against the Galaxy Z Fold 4. Now, for full disclosure, I used to work for Samsung, but I have not for more than 4 years, and I've purchased the Galaxy Z Fold 4 with my own money. I'm also a part of the Google Team Pixel, meaning they have provided free phones for me to show on my channel, but they did not provide the Pixel Fold. I have purchased it with my own money. Now that that's out of the way, let's get started. First up, let's start with the front screen. Now, first I want to mention the Z Fold devices do need to have a case because they have this camera on the side, so they are always wobbling. A case fixes that, where the Pixel doesn't have that unless, of course, they're open. Now, next we have the aspect ratio. So on the Galaxy Fold phones, they're much skinnier and taller, and the Pixel Fold is not quite so tall and a lot wider and more natural to other smartphones. Now, one of the things the Z Fold 4 added was a few millimeters on the front screen, which increased the width here, which definitely helped. Now, I have been loving the bigger size of the Pixel Fold. I love how every app formats properly. With the Z Fold 4, I've been having all kinds of apps that are squished and different information is missing. So here's an example of an app that I've been using recently is Akara. Here you can see how much we're getting on this screen, and over here it is cutting off part of that information. Here on YouTube, you can see that I'm seeing a lot more information up here at the top. The apps are much bigger, but here you get a longer screen, so you're seeing more information that way. So it just kind of depends on what you like. I've really been loving the bigger screen. It's way more natural. I'm using the front screen more just because it's more easy to use one-handed. The only complaint about the big screen is now it's kind of wide. I've got used to the thinner keyboard here on the Galaxy Fold, so moving to this wider screen has taken a little bit to get used to, so it's harder to swipe and do one-handed, but I've really liked having this larger screen. I think this is the way to go on a foldable. So having this really skinny display works, but over time it just feels a little crammed and not as natural as the more wide version of the Pixel Fold. So that wins over here on the Pixel Fold is that wider front screen. And I'm totally fine with the screen not being so tall. I think all the other phones, even the Pixel 7 Pro, the Galaxy Ultra 23, they are too tall and too big. It's so hard to hold those and fully use that screen. So I've been really liking this front screen. Now, when watching a video here on the Pixel Fold, you can see that I have much more use of the screen real estate, where on the Z Fold, it's a little squished and no use of the outer screens there. So I really am happy with the Pixel Fold outer screen. Now, before we unfold the devices, let's look at a few more things. Here we have the difference in the width there. And then here we have the difference in the height, so pretty drastic there. One thing you'll notice is the Pixel Fold does fold flat, where the Z Fold 4 kind of has that little gap in between. With the Z Fold 5 announced today, there will no longer be that gap. So there on the back you have the different cameras as well. And the Pixel Fold is definitely a little bit thinner. I, of course, always am using a case, so maybe I'll have to try without a case, but I'm not to that point yet. So now let's go ahead and open the phone. So you'll see when I open the Pixel Fold, it instantly unlocks to the bigger screen. And the same thing on the Galaxy Z Fold 4. Now, one thing I want to mention is Samsung has a lot more customization. On the Pixel Fold, the outside screen apps and the inside screen are going to copy each other, so they'll be the same, where on the Z Fold 4, you can have a totally different inside screen and a totally different outside screen apps. The Pixel Fold will also automatically lock when you fold the device together, but the Z Fold 4, you can make it so it continues the app when you shut the fold. So there are some settings I would like to see moved to the Pixel Fold. Now, you'll notice that when you open them, they are different aspect ratios. So here you have the wider aspect ratio, and here you have the taller aspect ratio. Now, for the most part, I'm watching videos or consuming content on multiple apps, so having the wider aspect ratio is more natural because that's how I'm going to be watching the video, or I'm going to split a screen and I'm going to have two full screen apps there. Here on the Z Fold, I most likely am going to rotate my display so it then formats the same way as this, and then when I'm done, you would close it this way, where this I have to rotate and close. Both work, no real complaints there. So now let's talk about something that most people are going to talk about is bezels. Now, at first, I had no problems with the bezels on the Pixel Fold. until I opened back up the Z Fold 4 and I noticed how slim the bezels were here. So you can see it's just a nice, really clean look over here on the Z Fold 4, where there's some room for improvement on the Pixel Fold. One of the benefits there is you get the full camera there, where this is a camera under the screen, so you don't have as good as a camera there. So I prefer this way, but over time, we could see the next Pixel expand the screen on the inside, keeping the phone the same size, but getting a bigger screen, which would be great to see. But they are pretty much identical in the size of the screen now. So either way, no matter what fold you go with, you're gonna have a nice big internal screen that looks really, really nice and can play videos. The Fold is a slightly bit brighter. I think the Pixel Fold goes up to 1500 nits, and then the Z Fold 5 will go up to, I think, 1750 nits. So a little bit brighter. Samsung always has really nice screens, and Pixel, I think, is using Samsung screens, so it's not going to be too far off there. So both screens have worked really great. This is where I'm going to be consuming the most content. One thing I really like on the Z Fold 4 is the kickstand case. Let me just pop that on real quick. So if I am watching a video, I can have it be in the widescreen mode and use the kickstand, where with the Pixel, I haven't found a great case that does that. You'll usually have just one little bar that it stands up, so it might be a little imbalanced, kind of like the regular Nintendo Switch versus the Nintendo Switch OLED, how you have that really nice kickstand. So that's one thing I need to figure out. So that works great. Something that does need to be figured out here on the Pixel Fold. So that is one benefit of having the phone oriented like this. You can have a nice case that does that, but I just haven't found something I really like on the Pixel Fold. Now on the inside screen, one really important thing is being able to manage different tasks quickly. So here on the Pixel Fold, we have our home row. There on the Z Fold 4, we have the home row. But if you do swipe up, there you have that home row again. You can quickly go to all your apps, and you can go to split screen. Here on the Z Fold, if I swipe up, similar, I'm seeing all those apps. I can tap here and go to the split screen. But the Z Fold 4 does have this taskbar when you open an app, that there you have all of the different apps there, and I can see all the apps, and then I can quickly go into multi-window just by dragging the apps there. So now let's talk about the multi-window. Now here on the Pixel, let's do the same thing. There we have the two apps, so we can have them side by side. If we rotate them, they will automatically rotate. Here I can swap places. I can double tap to swap places. Now the issue is when you're using apps that are not formatted for the device. Now the Pixel Fold doesn't format apps like the Z Fold 4. So let me show you how that works. Okay, so here we are watching a video on one side of the screen and using an app on the other. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make YouTube full screen here. Okay, we now have a bigger screen. It does not want to go full screen. All right, but let's say we want to rotate the phone. So here I have my YouTube that's bigger, but then the screen down here is only going to format to that big because it can't format any bigger. That's just how it works. Let's try the same thing over here. I'm able to get the bottom to format correctly, but then you do run into some instances where, like here, I'm not able to actually progress in this app or see what I want. So maybe Google's onto something with being able to only format it correctly here. But with Samsung, you can take almost any app on the phone and have it formatted for the full screen. So when the phones are in portrait mode, you can make them full widescreen, but if you ever go into landscape mode, but then you do get this weird formatting, so I can double tap to move where it is, but I can't force this app to go full screen in the widescreen version. So there are some interesting formatting issues there. Now, one of my favorite ways to use multi-window is having YouTube Kids play on one side of the screen and then me using another app on the side of the screen, where with that, he's always going to have a smaller screen. I can't have it in the portrait mode and have a big app on the bottom. Not a huge deal, but that's something that Samsung has definitely been able to figure out, having the option to have all the apps expand to full screen. So here on the Z Fold 4, you can have 3 apps actually oriented correctly. Here we have YouTube over here, we have the Akara app, and then here we have Chrome. So you can have 3 apps at once, where on the Pixel Fold, you're only able to have 2 apps. And then with the Z Fold 4, you can save an app. So here I can favorite that and add it to the taskbar. So if I ever want to open those 3 apps again, all I need to do is tap the taskbar right here. It's going to open those 3 apps, where on the Pixel Fold, every time I need to swipe up, go into split screen, and then go back to the other app. So the Pixel Fold definitely has some software improvements they could make on multi-window aspects, split screen, as well as favorites. Samsung has been doing that for years, and they do a really great job at that. Next up, let's talk screen quality. Here I've set them both to full brightness. Let's dim them a bit. So here we go down. And you can see that the Z Fold 4 definitely gets a little bit dimmer. Now on the Pixel Fold, there is an option for extra dim in the quick settings. So it is nice that if you really need it to go darker, but they both have worked great. Love the screen quality on both of these, really, really nice. Now let's talk about the hinge. So here we have the hinge in the middle of the screen, and there you can see the phone is open. You can't notice the hinge unless I put some light on it. Now, if you're running your finger over it, you will feel the hinge there, but then you see it, close the phone, you don't really see it. Now, there is this cool thing that happens when you are using an app. So here, let's use an app, and then I'm going to close the phone. You'll see it start to slowly shrink. There it goes. And then you close the phone, which is kind of cool. Now, one thing is the volume buttons and the power button is switched. I finally got used to it on the Pixel Fold, but the volume button's on the bottom, where over here on the Z Fold, the volume button's on the top. So again, let's look at the screen here. You can see there's no hinge there until I put it in the light. Then there you can see the hinge. And when I fold the phone, it folds nice and smooth, and then it closes. So this has a more hard close, and then this has a more soft close. Kind of nice there. Now looking at the hinge more deeply on the Z Fold, when you fold it, it barely creases the phone. So there's barely a crease there until you fold it up. Now on the Pixel Fold, you'll notice that as you pinch it, the fold kind of gets more drastic. And because it's kind of going inside of the screen, now that's something that's going to be happening on the Z Fold 5, but I think it does make it so the hinge is slightly more noticeable on the Pixel Fold. Again, this is 1st generation versus 4th generation. So we'll see if the 5th generation has any difference there, but there it's pinching in the screen more so that it does close flat. Not a huge deal, but I have noticed that. But then you'll also hear people talk about how the Pixel Fold doesn't open all the way. So this is just me naturally opening the phone. So I do kind of press it, but I feel like that's opening all the way. So it definitely looks like that's opening all the way. If I ever need to open it a little more, I just kind of give it a little push and it opens all the way. When I am using this, the camera bump does slightly cause it to fold in. So that would be the problem there, but I'm perfectly happy with the way this works. Now with the Fold 5, we'll see if that's any different, but I still think we're a bit a ways off from having that unseen folded screen. Next, let's talk about the speakers. So on the Pixel Fold, you have a speaker here on the top and on the bottom, where on the Z Fold 4, you have one on the top and the bottom. But if you unfold the screen and you're watching a video in widescreen, the speakers are on the left and right side, where with the Pixel Fold, they're still on the top and the bottom. So there's not really any right and left stereo sound when using this, unless you hold it this way, which kind of defeats the purpose. So it would be nice to see some speakers over on the side. So the speakers are here, I open it up, then I have the speakers here on the side of the screen. Overall, the quality between the two is very similar, maybe a slight more bass or better quality on the Z Fold 4. Now I'm mostly using my headphones when I'm using these phones, so there's not really an issue there, but I think Samsung has the right idea with these speakers so that when you hold the phone like this, they are on the left and right side. Next, let's talk durability. So with the Z Fold 4, in the months that I used this, I had my kid throw this across the room a few times. It never had any issues. I've dropped it once or two times, again, with a case on, never had any problems. But you will notice that when the screen is off, I do have some scratches in that screen protector that's built in. So there you can see the scratches there, and I did notice I actually have a little part right here that is indented into the phone. There you can see it right there. So I don't know how I got that, maybe pressing too hard, There is a fingernail right there that you can see. So screen quality though has worked great. I've seen these break, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. Samsung has been doing this for a long time. They kind of know what they're doing on the foldable screens here. So long term, this is what your phone would end up looking like on the foldable side. The indentation there, and then here you have those scratches at a level 3 or whatever it may be. So let's see on the Pixel Fold. Now I've only been using this for maybe almost a month. I don't have any scratches or anything like that. There is quite a bit of smudging from fingerprints and so on, so you can easily clean that off. Now there is a screen protector on here that you can easily see. I haven't taken mine off. I've seen others have, but I'm going to leave that on just to make sure that any of these scratches aren't happening to the actual screen and they are only happening to that screen protector. And so as for indentations, I also see slightly it happening right there as well in a very similar spot. So that is something you just get with a foldable device. One day we might have a really nice screen that is able to be folded, that is much more firm, but as you can see, they are a soft screen and they are going to have some little problems like that. Now with the Pixel Fold, I have dropped this a few times with the case on, haven't seen any problems. Dropped it face down on the corner, luckily not too far or too hard, but so far everything has been working great. So foldables, I think you don't have to worry about them being as durable as other devices. These are both water resistant. I would stay away from these if you do have a lot of sand or dust that you're dealing with on a daily basis. On my Z Fold 4, when I close the phone, there's an extra click in the hinge because of some sort of dust that got in there. I don't think it's supposed to be doing that. Whereas the Pixel Fold, there is a soft hinge, no noise happening there. So I think durability wise, they'll last a long time. It's just something we'll have to wait and see. Next up, let's move on to the cameras here. So here you can see a few different images. So here are some pictures. I just took this on the Pixel Fold, here on the Z Fold 4. You can see kind of the difference in the cameras. One is a little more natural, where the Z Fold 4 does a little bit more aggression on the back of the portrait mode and so on. So let's jump into a few more pictures here. Now I've been very impressed with the cameras on both these phones. I don't think one is particularly better than the other. They just have their own ways of taking photos that are slightly aggressive in the processing of the photo, but overall I've been impressed and happy with both of these devices. That is one thing I really like on the Z Fold 4 versus the Z Fold 3 is I saw some big improvements in the camera. Now let's talk about something that's very important, the placement of the flashlight. So here on the Pixel Fold, it's at the top corner, where on the Z Fold 4, it's down here on the bottom of the camera layout. So here, let's turn on the flashlight there. Now there's been so many times when I've been using the flashlight on this phone where I couldn't figure out where it was, or it was hard to see what I was looking at because of the flashlight placement. I would way prefer it to be up here in the top corner above the cameras, just because then I can look into things much easier, where here this is very difficult to do. And so that's not a huge issue, but something that has been a bother to me that it's not there, where here on the Pixel Fold, it is in that nice top corner. So if I'm looking at something, I know it's from the corner. So here, let's turn on the flashlight and I can look in and see there. All right, now let's take a look at how wide these actually spread. So here we have the Z Fold 4. So holding up, let's make sure the brightness is all the way up. Okay, so the brightness is all the way dim right there. And I can get it pretty bright. So hovering 2 feet above the table, it is able to fill the whole table. So now let's go ahead and check out the Pixel Fold. So they're about the same, 2 feet. It's able to fill the whole table. So holding these up, I do feel like the Pixel Fold was a little bit brighter and it has a wider spread, but there is no option to adjust the brightness on the Pixel Fold. So yeah, both flashlights work great. I just like the positioning on the Pixel Fold a little better. Now let's move on to something that's very important on every single phone, which is battery life. Now the good news, no matter which of these phones you choose, you're not gonna have very good battery life. By the end of the day, the phone is very close to dying. On a heavy use day, it's about 7 o'clock and I realize I need to charge my phone if I'm gonna make it through the rest of the day, but maybe about 75% of the time, I'm able to get to the end of the day with typical usage. So I wish I could say that the battery life on the Pixel has greatly improved over time, but it's been about similar since I started using it. Maybe it is getting a little bit better here and there, but that's something I remember doing with the Z Fold 4 is I would have to make sure that I charged the phone before I started bedtime so that I had enough power to get to the end of the day. They both do support wireless charging. They do have power saving modes that I could turn on, but I've actually not turned those on just to see what the battery life was like. So they're pretty average, nothing great here. Hopefully those improve over time on folds. Now the last thing to talk about is any issues that I've had with the Pixel Fold or the Galaxy Z Fold 4. I've noticed with the Z Fold 4, some of the software still glitches. Just something Samsung's had for a long time. There's these random glitches, or maybe I'm rotating the phone or opening it and it has to reorient it and it just glitches and flashes for a second until it gets everything put in the right place. Where I haven't noticed those types of issues on the Pixel Fold, things have actually been buttery smooth for the most part. Everything is working really great. I love all the animations. Everything seems to be pretty solid. The only issue I've had on the Pixel Fold is every once in a while I'll be using an app and I cannot touch something I want to touch. It just locks up for a second. I can't use the app anymore, and then I just wait a few seconds and then I'm able to use it. So they both have kind of their nitpicks there where they're not flawless all the time, but I have liked the Tensor 2 chip in the Pixel Fold. I feel like it has been working great, and we'll see some great improvements on the performance with the new Z Fold 5 and that new Snapdragon Gen 2 chip. So both of these phones have performed as expected, always some improvements there. And so that is my comparison of the Google Pixel Fold versus the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4. Now the good news, if you're a Samsung fan, they just announced the Galaxy Z Fold 5 today. So they're on the 5th iteration of Samsung phones. They've improved the hinge, they've made the screen brighter, they have a new processor, all kinds of things that they've done. So if you're really interested in a Samsung phone, now is a great time to go and check that out. I really enjoy the Pixel Fold. I love this aspect ratio. So that's kind of the difference here. Do you want something that Samsung's been doing for 5 iterations? They've kind of figured out some software bugs, but they have a different form factor. Or do you want the better form factor? So that's kind of the decision that you need to make here. I really like the Pixel Fold, and I know with the next generation, they're just going to keep improving just as Samsung has done. So what's the ultimate one? We'll see over time. But with the Z Fold 5 that was announced today, they've done all kinds of things like improve the folding hinge. You now have it shut completely flat. You have a little bit better processor. You have a little bit better cameras, and all those little improvements that Samsung makes every single year. So it's great that you now have that option in comparison with the Pixel Fold. Samsung's also offering some great things where you can get up to $1,000 trade-in for the new Pixel Fold. So if you have a latest phone, that most likely will apply to you. And then Samsung does a really cool thing where instead of getting the 256 gig standard storage, they'll bump you up to the 512 gig storage for free without any extra charge. That's something that I would have had to pay an extra $100 on the Pixel Fold for. That's something that I would have had to pay an extra $100 for on the Pixel Fold. So I went with the 256 gig option. So I think both of these are really great options. I'm really happy with the Pixel Fold right now just because I've been using this phone for a long time. And like I said, the biggest difference is the aspect ratio here. I'm feeling a little squished and crammed on this main screen here, where the Pixel Fold just feels more natural, more open, more fresh, and so on. So that is my review of these two phones. If you have any further questions, please let me know down in the comments below. And if you want to pick up any of these, I highly recommend you check out Rakuten, and the link in the description below is how this works, is you add a little thing to your browser so that when you buy a phone, you click on that before you buy the phone and it will give you 2%, 5%, depending on what they're getting back for that website. So if you buy $1,000 phone and you get 5% back, hey, that's $50 back in your pocket that you wouldn't have had. So I highly recommend signing up for Rakuten, adding it to your browser, then going and purchasing your product, making sure you click on the little pop-up so that you do get that cash back, which comes to you. I've received more than $1,000 cash back when searching online. So definitely do that if you're going to pick up any of these. Links down in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.